before that, let me talk about, I'm going to request Yury to share a little bit about his life story and background. Because, as you guys know, every founder, I think like what drives you guys and motivates you and makes you build something world-class, like that is, as much a part of anybody's success as what you actually do later with it. So maybe share a little bit about your life journey and how did you get to founding ClickHouse in 2021?
I graduated, I did AI actually in graduate school back in the 90s when it wasn't as cool as it is right now. I worked for a few startups, joined Yahoo. I worked on their data warehouse and search engine for 8 years. In 2010, I joined Netflix. They recruited me to help with their cloud migration. And then I went to Google, spent a few years there working on their cloud products. I first heard about ClickHouse in 2018. So ClickHouse, those of you who don't know the history, the technology was first developed in 2009 inside Yandex. So Yandex is a big, they call it the Google of Eastern Europe, kind of big tech shop there. And they wanted to build a database. They needed to build a database to support Yandex Metrica, which is their web analytics tool. So after looking around at different technologies, they finally decided, okay, we have to build our own. And so they built ClickHouse. It became super popular internally. They found tons of use cases. And in 2016, they open sourced it. And it became the most popular, the fastest growing database project on GitHub. In 21, my old friend Aaron Katz, who I'd known for over a decade before then, we met when I was at Netflix. He was the CRO at Elastic. We were using a lot of Elastic at Netflix at that time. And, we've been talking about doing something together. And then this opportunity came up. And he came to me and was like, Yury, we got to do this. And at first I was like, why do I need a crazy startup life? And then I'm like, okay, well, let me try it out. So I downloaded ClickHouse onto my laptop. And I loaded some data and started running queries, and the results were coming back right away, like that, instantaneously. Like, what's wrong? So I loaded more data and more data until I ran out of disk space on my laptop. And the results were still coming back immediately. Like, not, you push enter, and the query comes back. I'm like, okay, this has to be broken. It can't possibly be this fast. And so I looked at the result. No, it's actually working as expected. And that's when I knew, I was like, this is one of a kind, unique technology, and I just can't pass it by. And I'd been building services, managed services on top of open source for 20 years before that, and I've seen good ones, bad ones, everything in between. But this just blew me away. So that's the rest is history.
What a great story. You tried to break it, and you were like, well.
And it broke me. Look at me now.
The ClickHouse journey is so ridiculous. Let me explain what has happened here. And actually, some of this I will let Yury explain.
So we bootstrapped the company. We didn't raise a seed. My co-founder Aaron and myself, we put some money in up front, and then Mike Volpe from Index is now running Hanabi Ventures, and Peter Fenton from Benchmark. They were with us from the beginning. And so that we did a Series A, and there was so much investor demand. And we knew from the beginning that we wanted to build a fully managed serverless cloud product and start with that. Those of you who are familiar with the open source-based ecosystem, the typical journey is companies who start out with open source projects. They start with support, and 5-10 years later, they build a cloud product, and then they try to migrate customers to the cloud. We didn't want to follow that path, and most of you probably know why. It's doing on-prem support. It's a trench warfare. It's very low quality revenue. The retention rate is quite low because customers, if you do a good job, customers are like, what am I paying you for?
Yeah, correct.
If it's easy, then they'll do it. And if you don't do a good job, even more so, they're not paying you. So it's a very hard business to be in. Plus, every customer is one of a kind. And so you spend the whole time customizing your solution for each specific environment, each specific customer. Whereas with cloud, you build it once. If you do a good job, you leverage it across thousands of customers. And we knew right away that that's what we wanted to do, but it's an expensive proposition. Also, ClickHouse, it's a global company and started out in Eastern Europe, became really popular in Asia. And from the beginning, we wanted to have global reach. So upfront, we invested in all three large cloud providers, AWS, GCP, Azure. We also have a first-party offering with Alibaba Cloud for China and Southeast Asia. And currently, we're running in 32 different cloud regions. And the economics of each region is there is a fixed cost up front to deploy in that region, and then you make up for it as you grow volume. So we're quite profitable in our biggest regions, US East 1, US West 2, EU West and AWS and a few, but majority of our regions we're losing money. So it was an upfront investment, and we needed the funds to pay for that development and to pay for those infrastructure costs. Fortunately, in 21, things were, very active, and in retrospect, it worked really well. Today, we have over 3,000 customers all over the world. Vast majority of them, 99%, are PLG customers. We never talk to them. They come in with a credit card, and they go from there. They're happy. I mean, yeah, we do have committed spend accounts with some of the larger customers, but it's really the PLG journey that got us to where we are.
And I can tell you, because I've been in now, investing, most of the VC industry said this is madness, this is crazy, because you had no revenue then, right?
Yeah, we didn't. We spent the first year and a half. So we launched our cloud product December of 22. So we didn't have any. I mean, we took on a few support customers just to build the relationship and to keep them warm until they're like Netflix, Disney, a few others, and to be like our design partners. But yeah, we did not intentionally push back on any support business because we wanted to focus on cloud.
And you've been investing in every round yourself.
I've been investing as much as I possibly could in every single round. I'm a big believer. I think it's going to be huge.
The company is seeing explosive growth, hundreds of millions of dollars run rate. So, Yury, talk a little bit about how do you, I mean, this is every founder's dream come true, right? Like you start a company and you get well capitalized and then you find insane PMF. How challenging is it to grow a company this fast? And how do you guys build the org around it and so on?
Yeah, so we've been very fortunate. I mean, first of all, I don't take any of it for granted. We've been very lucky. Of course, having this amazing technology as the starting point, that's the key ingredient. Also, I think the fact that it was an open source technology, it made all the difference. And I know there's this love-hate relationship with open source in the investor community, and many founders struggle with it.
We are on the love side of it.
Good, good. You picked the right side. It's been the best thing for us because, the company hasn't even started, and most enterprises already using ClickHouse one way or the other. Like most of you have heard about it, and I assume most of it from the open source. It can be a little tricky, and there is this, excuse me, there is this assumption that open source and your commercial offering, they're in tension with each other, right? People assume, well, if you build a commercial product, your open source community is going to hate you because now you're shifting focus. And then if you're running a commercial business, then open source is going to cannibalize your business. Hypothetically, all of that is true, but it doesn't have to be this way. And in the case of ClickHouse, at least, it's anything but that. In fact, it's a flywheel. Open source is the biggest source of migrations to our commercial cloud offering. And it's our biggest marketing channel. We don't have to advertise as much because people already know ClickHouse. And having a successful commercial business gives us the revenue to invest back into the development of the open source. So it's a virtuous cycle. It's a flywheel that feeds on each other. Now, the question is, if you already have a successful open source technology, why would people pay you money for it, right? I mean, sure, it's a managed service, so for some customers, yeah, they don't want to deal with it, they don't want to self-manage operational overhead. Maybe you have some enterprise features, security features, compliance. Sure, some customers want it, but at the end of the day, it's the bottom line, right? So how do you make your commercial offering cheaper, more cost-efficient than the free open source? How does a paid product become cheaper than free? Well, as a matter of fact, you can. And in the case of ClickHouse, it has to do with architecture. So the open source ClickHouse, typically you deploy it as a shared nothing architecture. The data sits directly on the compute nodes. It's a database. And it's a simpler architecture, but it's also quite rigid. Because if you want to increase the size of your cluster or shrink it or upgrade the software or anything else, it becomes very, very expensive because now you have to copy all of that data and metadata to a new node. And it's also very rigid because inevitably, as your volume grows, you're going to hit the limitation. Even if you over-provision and you have to pay for it 24/7, whether you use it or not, eventually you're going to hit the limitation and you're also going to suffer with your reliability and all of that. When we built our commercial cloud product, we separated compute and storage. And we developed a new table engine where the data sits in shared object storage like S3 or GCS, or if you're deploying in private cloud, things like MinIO. And the compute tier is totally stateless. You don't have to have any data or metadata to serve queries from the customers. And what that allows you to do is you can scale, you can auto-scale, scale up, scale down, scale out. You can idle if you're not taking traffic. And you only pay for what you use. Also, object storage is at least an order of magnitude cheaper than attached SSDs that you typically have to use in the shared nothing deployments. So the combination of those factors is you get a much better fully managed product that is also much cheaper. By most accounts, it's like 3/4 of the time cheaper to do it this way. And so it becomes a no-brainer, right? And we also made sure that functionally the open source and our cloud product, they're fully compatible. So you can shift the queries either way you want. And it's a very nice insurance policy for customers who hate lock-in, who want multi-cloud. They don't want vendor lock-in. They like the idea of being able to fall back onto your open source if something doesn't work out. But in reality, nobody ever does because it's cheaper, it's fully managed, it's a better product, so it's a win-win for everyone.
This has been a big holy grail for companies. One, monetization from open source, and second, most companies lose their developer love once they start commercializing. But like you guys have managed to retain all this developer love.
Yeah, I think the key there, and another thing that's a little different about ClickHouse is we don't have a foundation. We don't have external governance. And it's working. I mean, it's one of the happiest developer communities that I've seen, and I've seen a lot of them over the years. And I think the key there is to maintain a high pace of innovation. Most databases release a new version of their software once a year, every 18 months. ClickHouse launches a new major version of its software every month, on the clock. 12 times a year for as long as it's been in the open source. We've had a new release every month. And every month you have great new features. We just like last one, we launched a few months ago, search, so you can use ClickHouse now, similar to Elastic, for search. We're launching vector. We've just launched vector database, approximate nearest neighbor. Lots of goodness in every single release. And when the community sees so much new stuff coming in, they're happy. So I think it's less about how you organize and how you govern, and it's more about do you deliver the value to the community.
Amazing. And how do you keep culture intact when you're growing the company so fast?
It's a great question. So we launched right on the heels of COVID. We decided to do it as a fully remote company. In part because we wanted to be a global company from the beginning, in part because ClickHouse contributors are all over the world. And if we had to build a company in one office, doesn't matter, like in Silicon Valley, here in San Francisco, or New York, or Seattle, or Bangalore, it's impossible to get that talent density in one company, in one physical location. It's just physically impossible to do it. And we're able to hire these great people wherever they are. The flip side of that is that you really have to tailor your culture for this kind of fast-paced, rapid innovation, global environment. So you really need to be able to ramp up quickly. You need to know how to build production quality code, how to estimate risk, how to manage your time, how to coordinate with your teammates that may be all over the world. If you have a question and your teammate is 12 time zones away, you're in Bangalore, they're in San Francisco, well, you're not going to wait for a day to ask a question and get an answer back. So you have to push forward to yourself somehow. So all of those things are really important. Culture is very important. I actually spent a big chunk of my time, I interview every single person who comes into the company. Usually I'm the last person to interview them. We're about 500 people now. Ends up being a lot of interviews. But for me, it's important to make sure that I build a connection and I also get a chance to evaluate every single person who comes in. I do one-on-ones with everybody in the company, or at least on the technical side. With different frequencies. Some people I talk to once every few months, but again, this one-on-one connection is really, really important. And yeah, I mean, culture is probably the most important thing.
Yury said he interviews candidates every day,
yeah.
more or less. So, I mean, like that is what it's pretty crazy. Like I have not seen many leaders that committed to org building while they are scaling so fast. Yeah. That's pretty incredible. And then also the fact that you do one-on-ones with everyone.
The most valuable thing as a leader, as a founder of the company that you can give to your team is your time. By far the most, and actually I benefit from those one-on-ones more arguably than people themselves because it gives me a direct visibility at what's happening on the ground. Because, you know, even today we already have multiple levels of management. There's always a little bit of a telephone game, what information bubbles up, what doesn't. So every time I talk to someone, I learn something useful for me. And this has been the best thing. So I've done it at Netflix, I did it at Google, and I'm continuing to do it at ClickHouse. And I'll try to do it as long as I possibly can.
That's incredible.
Yeah. But I think it's also important, like, as a fully remote company, we make sure to bring everyone together in person twice a year.
Twice a year.
So every 6 months, we do a all company offsite. Everyone comes together in a nice place. The social time, we have a bunch of breakouts, you know, whole company meetings. So that's been amazing at keeping company sort of cohesive. Also, you need to be very intentional about your meeting culture, what meetings you have, for what audiences, all hands, leadership meetings, team meetings, even like the meeting etiquette. Things like turning your camera on when you're in a meeting, right? It's so much like those nonverbal cues. It's so important to have that. Sure, it's really, really important to be thoughtful about like how you spread information, how do you share memos, how do you have meetings, over-communicating, you know, being very transparent is really important. And yeah, I mean, every company has a different culture. The one we have is, it works well for us.
Actually, it's no surprise in a way when companies have a lot of internal cohesion that also reflects in developer love and customer love. Like, it's actually, in a way, sort of it makes sense. Now, I was asking Yury, right before we started, how big can ClickHouse be, Yury? Like, what's the TAM here and so on?
So the global data management market, last I checked, it's somewhere between 150 and $200 billion a year.
And it's growing fast, actually.
And it's growing really fast. It's growing at least 20% year over year, every year. And now with Asia, and we'll probably talk more about AI and how that's driving huge increase in data volumes, that's growing even faster. There's just a combinatorial explosion in the volumes of data and the need for data management. And ClickHouse, again, we started with real-time analytics, and we've expanded into multiple use cases with data warehousing, observability, real-time applications, and now, of course, with agentic workflows and Gen AI applications. We also have a managed Postgres service. So in addition to analytics, we also have OLTP. And our ambition is to be a one-stop shop for all of your data management needs and be faster, more scalable, more cost-efficient, and better than anyone else. So our goal is to compete for all of that TAM. How far we get, well, time will tell. Hopefully, with the help of all of you guys, we'll get there sooner.
Talk a little bit about AI. How are you guys? You have become the default for like lots of the top AI companies. And what's happening? What are you guys witnessing?
Yeah. So again, we've been very fortunate that all of the AI labs and AI companies that I know of are big ClickHouse users. You can use ClickHouse as a feature store to train models, to run inferences. You can run vector search. In reality, most of our customers, and we have some really important notable customers who are building models, training models, running inferences. Most of our customers actually do not bother training their own models. So we've seen this huge explosion in agentic workflows. And typically, the way that it works is customers or prospective customers, they have their proprietary data sitting in a database like ClickHouse, and they want to use the power of LLMs for conversational analytics, even internally within ClickHouse. I have not used a BI tool in probably a year, because about a year ago, once Anthropic launched the MCP service, we've put an MCP service on top of ClickHouse. You connect to Claude or GPT, and whatever questions you have, you can just answer in English. We actually acquired the company LibreChat, which is the most popular open source chat interface that connects LLMs to your backend databases like ClickHouse and takes care of all the permissions and connections and all of that stuff. Very popular. Now we're offering it as a managed service, and it's so much easier. In fact, if you want to just test the power of that, you can go to llm.clickhouse.com, and it's like a demo. You don't have to have an account or anything like that, and just play with it. We've preloaded some test data sets, like GitHub history or like some real estate databases. Just go in and check it out. And what used to take weeks and months for analysts to develop those custom dashboards and specialized applications, now you throw an agent on top of it, you type in your question in English or whatever natural language of your choice, you get an answer back right away. It is so amazing. Just the experience is unbelievable. We're running engines internally on top of our data warehouse, top of our knowledge base, on top of our support ticketing system, operational metrics to debug outages, everything. It actually all goes into the same interface. You don't even have to go to different agents, just one chatbot, like a simple Google box, and you get access to all of that information immediately. It's amazing. A lot of our customers are doing the same thing, and it's been driving a lot of usage to ClickHouse. One thing that is top of mind for me and some of our customers is observability, AI observability. It's very easy to throw out, to stand up an agent, connect an LLM to your customers, but it's a black box by definition. You don't know what's going under the hood. And we all know that LLMs hallucinate and sometimes you don't get the most accurate information, especially if your data sources are not as accurate, garbage in, garbage out. So it is very, very important to run those evaluations and run operational metrics on top of your agents and AI applications. And that's why we acquired LangFuse, which is one of the most popular open source AI observability frameworks. It's now part of ClickHouse to help our customers to observe their agents and AI applications in addition to being able to run them.
Well, amazing. Let me open up for questions.
You mentioned a big focus on hiring where you're deeply involved in the process even today. And you have come from all these big tech companies which have a very standard hiring process. Have things significantly changed in the AI world? Like have your interview processes, recruiting loops significantly changed with AI coding and stuff?
Yes and no. I mean, well, first of all, having worked at all of those great companies like Google and Netflix, it definitely influenced how we're doing things, but we chose our own path. What changed with AI? Well, first of all, there is a lot of, like we've noticed, just a huge increase in the volume of applications. And some of it is that, we have better brand recognition and more people want to work for us. We are looking to, given that, we do homework assignments for people, right? Well, now that LLMs are so good with coding, we are actually adjusting some of those homeworks where rather than testing whether or not you can write the code, we're also testing can you use those coding tools in a smart way in order to get to the result that you need. But at the end of the day, you cannot eliminate the FaceTime. And that's why I still interview everyone coming in because these are the people you're going to be working with for years, hopefully, and you need to make sure that you have the right people.
So just to give more context, so we work in marketing, which is a very verticalized space. But a lot of stuff that we hear about is attribution. Hey, how much revenue are you bringing by doing this and whatnot? So reporting and analytics it's adjacent to us, but it comes up almost in every second conversation. And a lot of times we think about, of course, we'll build some reporting and analytics in our own tooling, but also should we connect to the Tableaus and Amplitudes of the world, right? Something I want to hear your opinion on is, do you see those tools existing standalone, and that's a whole industry of its own, and still integrating with those tools makes sense? Or are you seeing a world where with ClickHouse and faster processing, that's just going to be table stakes, that's going to be part of every tool, and that's just worth investing in as a standalone?
What a great question. Thank you for asking. Well, first of all, are those things going to exist? Over the years, I've learned that everything will be around forever. So while internally within ClickHouse, we're not necessarily using those things as much, our customers are, and one of the biggest areas of investments for us is integrations. We have a large integration team. Their head reports directly to me, and we pride ourselves on being ubiquitous. We connect to everything, all of the data sources, all of the data sinks, all of the data pipelines, BI tools, security tools, language clients. We have more than any other databases, client environments. You have to aim for, you drop ClickHouse into any environment, it just works out of the box. That's the only way, because it doesn't matter how good you are as a technology, how much faster, how much cheaper, how much better. If it's hard to integrate you into the environment, no one is going to give you the time of day, especially big enterprises. There's so much inertia, they're distracted by so many things. A big migration is a no-go. So you have to be able to just be dropped into that environment and work. So my advice would be integrate with everything. If you can, you should, and if you can't, figure out a way how you can.
Yury, thank you. It's a total honor to have you here.
Well, thanks for the kind words. We fooled you, but thanks for having me. Thank you, guys.